Family disowned me 8 years ago because my golden twin slept with my girlfriend, but now they wants to reconnect. But I'm disgusted after I knew why they really reached out to me. After being disowned 8 years ago, my family has invited me, my wife, 27, female and daughter, one female for Christmas after getting conflicted advice from my friends. One of my buddies told me to post my dilemma here to see what random internet strangers would say. I'm 25 male and youngest of 4 kids between my mom, 52 female and dad, 54 male. My siblings are fake names. Michael, 31 male, Sarah, 28 female, and my twin brother Carl, 25 male. For context, growing up I was the black sheep of the family, and I knew that from a very young age. You see, my family is full of athletes. My dad was a star basketball player for idiots who school. My mom played volleyball, Michael played soccer, Sarah played softball, and Carl was the star running back for the football team. I was never really interested in any of those physical sports, but rather, I was interested in archery, which my family called a wimpy sport. My parents were always invested in my siblings and rarely ever attended my events to the point where I basically had to beg for them to come to my tournaments between the ages of 14 to 16. I'd taken part in about 20 tournaments, while my parents only showed up to one. I was never neglected by them, but they were never emotionally there for me as they were for my siblings. And as a teenager, I resented that whenever I tried to bring this up to them, they would always call me an attention seeker. But however, this is not why I was disowned by my family. When I was 15, I began dating Amy, now 25 female, who was in the same rate as me at that time. After about 6 to 7 months of dating, I introduced her to my folks and my siblings, and they really liked her. I know I was young, but I could see myself having a future with her. Almost 3 years later, one of Amy's ex-friends told me that she had been cheating on me for a couple of months at a time. I didn't know who the guy was. But after confronting her, she told me that it was my twin brother. She basically told me that while at first she loved me, the love she had for my brother surpasses that. Later that day, when I confronted Carl at home, I was so enraged that I sucker punched him and knocked him out. I admit that I should have not gotten violent, but years of resentment towards him and the rest of the family just burst open. In exchange for my family not pressing charges on me as I could have been tried as an adult in court, I was sent to live with my paternal aunt, 4th female, who at this point was estranged from the family and lived in another city about 2 hours away. From then on, I have not had any contact with them. At first it was tough, but later on, with support from my aunts and her husband at 48 male, it moved on from wanting a relationship with them. I transferred to a different high school and attended a university in Miami City and graduated as an electrical engineer. I later met my wife and got married to her. I, at the time of my wedding, thought about inviting them, but once against it because I did not want any sort of drama to my wedding. From that point, me and my wife bought a house an hour away from my ends and were blessed with a daughter a year ago. About a week ago, I received a Facebook message from a mother and father wanting to reconnect over Christmas at their house. I told them that I would consider it as I possibly have other plans, but would give them a clear answer soon. Later on, both Michael and Sarah sent me friend requests, which felt weird to me. My wife has told me that if I decided to go, she and my daughter would spend Christmas at my father-in-law's house as she does not have to deal with unwanted stress as she is 2 months pregnant. And I agree with her. My question to those reading those is that should I go and try to reconcile with my family, or should I not? I'm very conflicted on what to do. On one hand, they perhaps feel bad about what they did to me and want to apologize for what they did. But on the other hand, perhaps if I go there, they will try to make me apologize to Carl, which I did not want to. Any advice would be helpful. Now for the top comments before reading the update. I think you should go another time. Spend Christmas with your wife and child. Visit your family at a less stressful time to see if they have any ulterior motives. It might just be about them wanting to see their grandchildren and not so much about you, which would be hurtful too. Yeah, I agree. Go another time. I was thinking the same thing. It could be something related to the grandkids. Spend Christmas with your wife, a child. Christmas is too big of an event to meet them. Also, update us. I can't get this post out of my hand. I can't imagine a parents kicking out their child who was betrayed by their other child. They might want to reconnect due to money. Grandchild? I don't know. But it's weird that even his siblings texted Opie. I hope it's for a good reasons, though. I honestly would spend Christmas away from my pregnant wife for them. Maybe I'm missing something, but why Christmas? They could have reached out at any time and given you a chance to pick a convenient time as they're the ones trying to amend things. I don't know. It seems weird to me. I personally wouldn't go unless you desperately want them back in your life. Optics. They found out Opie has a kid and is successful, and now they're trying to heal the family so they don't look like trash. Abandoned their son years ago. It's a trap. Notice they didn't open with any remorse or any sign of an apology. They want something, money-free work and organ access to your babies or just to look good to their friends. I'm not saying don't go, but keep your expectations low. Be ready for we need you to do X for us in order to properly reconcile speech and have a quick exit prepared. I don't know. As a parent, I cannot fathom going no contact with one of my children for 8 years after my other child did something so cruel to him, so he hit him. That is just inconceivable to me. Now, totally understand if my son hits his brother. If he ever did something like that, may be wrong. And I know I'm not supposed to say that, but we're all still human. Whether you can move past the fact they abandoned you to your arms and turned their backs for 8 years is your choice. But personally, I don't know if I could. If you can't and don't want to see them again, I doubt anyone would blame you. If they do, they don't know the full story. If they do know the full story, then they're not worth your time either. And now for the update. Update 1. I wanted to post earlier, but some things got in the way. 2 days after Christmas, my wife began to experience unbearable pain in her abdomen area, and she hardly could stand on her 2 feet. Me and her sister, 30 female, rushed her to the hospital where we found out that my wife had suffered a miscarriage and that the fetus had to be removed right away. Honestly, the worst part of me was explaining to my wife what had happened due to complications surrounding the operation. My wife was forced to stay for 2 more days. Honestly, I have been trying to stay strong for my wife and my daughter, but honestly, I'm struggling right now. Also, the updates of the original post. Most of you that commented on the same day post had told me not to spend Christmas with them because of the significance of that holiday. I agree, and decided I would spend the rest of the holidays with my wife. They never made time for me, so why should I make time for them? When I texted them this, I assumed they would try to argue with me, but rather they said they respected my opinion and could not wait to see me after the holidays. I began to do some digging into my family to try to figure out why they have reached out. Michael is a corporate lawyer who works for a major company in my hometown, but looking through his Facebook page, she has 2 daughters and was married to his wife in 2016. Sarah appears to be married to a doctor. She herself, 8 years ago, is studying to be a nurse, and they have a son together. I have a friend who lives in my hometown and has parents who are friends with my parents. When I asked her about Sarah, she told me that Sarah had divorced her first husband, the one she was dating 8 years ago after he had committed mail fraud. Carl got married to Amy right after high school, and they have 2 kids together. I cannot exactly figure out what he or his wife does for a living through Facebook, but judging that they bought a big house last year in the midst of a pandemic tells me they are not really struggling. My dad seems to be going through a midlife crisis, and my mother is really into the wellness community, and then began to list their reasons of why they wanted to possibly reach out to me now. 1. Money. And likely because 8 years ago, my parents' combined salary was higher than my wife and my salary. And given that my siblings are not struggling financially, makes me think money is not a reason. 2. Organ. Donation could be the case, but seems unlikely. But a commenter said that it could be that Carl, given he is my twin, would be my most likely match. And I think it's unlikely because he was tagged in a Facebook post scheme just a week before Christmas. 3. Regarding my daughter, they could possibly be reaching out to me to have a relation to my daughter, but I honestly am not sure. My daughter is not the first granddaughter for my parents, so I do not know why they want to meet her. The most likely found out my daughter existed because my wife's Facebook account was public. She has since private had her account, but then contacted my aunt. These change wanted took me in informing her about the situation, and she explained to me why they were reaching out to me after all this time. To understand the situation, you need to understand why my aunt was estranged. My paternal grandpa, 79 male and grandma, 76 female, had 4 children. My dad was the second oldest and my aunt's was the third. My aunt's, after college, decided that she will not work for the family business and went to live by her own. My grandparents immediately disowned her and refused to have any contact with her. However, about 4 years ago, my grandpa began to reach out. About a month ago, my grandpa had been asking about me and what I was doing in life, and whether I was married or had kids. My aunt responded by calling the grandpa out for wanting to know about me after he supported Carl for what he did. That is when the whole situation changes. My grandpa told my aunts that it's because I had cheated on Amy with one of her close friends. So I deserve to be outraged. My grandpa is a religious nut, so he looks down on cheating. He had been told by my family that after different who I allegedly cheated with confessed to Amy. She wanted Carl and Sarah for support and comfort, But when I found out about this, I confronted and brutally attacked Carl and Sarah. While Sarah was the one who tried to break me and Carl apart, I did not lay a finger on her. And I did not do that to Carl. When my aunt was telling me this, my jaw dropped. I could not believe that they hated me so much that they were willing to make a big, terrible lie about me and spread it around. My aunt later told Grandpa the full truth, and what truly happened in my aunt told me he was shocked because he always thought Carl was a good kid. My grandma, but then asked my aunt for my number, which she declined to give. It figured out why my parents and siblings wanted to get in touch with me. It turns out, my grandpa had told my parents and my siblings that if they did not apologize for what they did to me and have me over for the family Christmas dinner, they would be cut off from his will. For context, he is a multimillionaire. So that is why they reached out to me not to apologize about how they all wronged me in the past, but rather because if they did not, they would not get anything from Grandpa. What a bunch of greedy people. After hearing about this from my aunt, I decided to block all of them. Why should I respond to them? At this point, all of them are dead to me. I have a wife to support after what she went through at a family that respects me and my in-laws. However, this does not end here. As 3 days after New Year's Eve, I received a call from an unknown number on my work phone. I'm used to getting calls from unknown numbers because of my career, but when I picked up, I heard my grandfather's voice. He most likely got my number from my company website. The first thing he did was apologize for not trying to get in contact with me for the past 8 years. He told me he was sorry that he could not be there for important events such as my graduation, the wedding, and the birth of my daughter. I was not really close to him before, so him cutting me off did not bother me. Later in a call, he told me he was so disgusted with the rest of my family that he is cutting them off as well and adding me to it. I honestly do not know how to feel about that, as the money would be helpful, but at the same time, I do not want him to use those as a way to force a relationship between me and my daughter. We talked for about half an hour on the way to call. Once made me think that perhaps I could build a good relationship with my grandpa, but then he told me something that got me really pissed. He told me that he was disappointed and that my daughter had not taken the family name for context. After I got married to my wife, the issue of what last name to use as a couple came up. For some legal reasons, I wasn't able to change my last name to my wife's last name, but we decided as a couple that all of our future children would have her last name. I, at this point, unloaded on my grandpa, calling him a senile old man and many other hurtful things, and told him to never contact me ever again. The audacity of this man to say that after what I went through is something I will not let him use the money I received in the will to control me. Even if I receive the money, I will donate it to a local charity. But he is a man of false promises, so this is unlikely. These past few weeks have been really tough for me, and I hope to make it to the other side. My wife has private at her Facebook account, and my in-laws have done the same. What they do to try to contact me is beyond me. How they would probably hire a private detective to try to find me. I believe they do not know where I live, but you never know. I've thought to get a restraining order, but given that there are lawyers within a family means getting a restraining order will be hard. I did not really get any time to answer any questions given in my last post before it was deleted for some reason. I will do my best to answer any questions for the next day or two, but after this, I'm done using the site for a while. Thank you for all your advice that I wish you all the best in this new year. Update 2. Hey everyone, it's time for another big update from my end. And boy, it's been a roller coaster. A lot has happened since the last time I posted, and I've got some pretty heavy stuff to share. So let's start with my grandpa. Our relationship has always been a bit rocky, with lots of ups and downs, mostly because we just didn't talk much. But recently, he did something that totally caught me off guard. He actually agreed with my decision to give my kids their mom's last name. Not just that, he's cool with them deciding if they want to change it when they're older. For a guy from his generation, that's pretty progressive, and honestly, it felt really good to hear him support our decision. During a recent visit to introduce my kids to their great-grandpa, he decided to drop a huge bombshell. Out of nowhere, he tells me that he's put me in his will, and I'm set to inherit something like $2, $3 million in assets. Yeah, you read that right. Millions. I was floored. Not just because of the amount, but because it suddenly made sense why my estranged family suddenly wanted to get all cozy again. This whole inheritance thing has really made me rethink their motives. It's pretty clear now that their sudden interest in reconnecting had more to do with the potential money coming my way than any real desire to make amends. It's kind of sickening to realize that, but it's not entirely surprising, given our history. This whole situation has thrown me into a loop, making me think back to all the family drama over the years. I've always been the odd one out because I wasn't into sports like the rest of them. I got into archery, which they all thought was lame. My twin brother's betrayal 8 years ago was the last straw. He got involved with my girlfriend at the time, and instead of getting any support, I was the one who got kicked out. They sided with him and pretty much erased me from their lives until now. Fast forward to now, and after being out of touch for so long, they hit me up wanting to reconnect just as Grandpa changes his will. Coincidence? I think not. Introducing my kids to Grandpa went better than expected. It was kind of nice seeing them meet him, and he actually seemed to enjoy it too. We had some real talk, and he shared a lot of old family stories, which was interesting and gave me a lot to think about. But it's tough to shake off the feeling that there's always some angle or hidden agenda with my family. Now, I've got to figure out what to do next. How do I handle this inheritance? Do I even want to dive back into the family drama pond because of the money? And how do I deal with Grandpa's newfound interest in my life without feeling like it's all just because of the will? This is a lot to process, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to move forward. If anyone's got any advice or has been through something similar, I'd love to hear it. Family can be complicated, and right now it feels like I'm in the middle of a soap opera. Thanks for letting me vent here. This community has been a great support through all of this craziness. I'll keep you all posted on what happens next. Here's to hoping for less drama and more peace in the future. Update 3. Hey Reddit. So here's the scoop. Someone, I suspect one of my uncles who's always been a bit of a blabbermouth, leaked the info about Grandpa's will changing. Suddenly, my Facebook inbox is like a war zone, bombarded with messages from family members I haven't heard from in ages. They're accusing me of everything under the sun, from being a master manipulator to tricking a sweet old man into giving me his fortune. Honestly, the creativity of their accusations could fuel a Netflix series. The irony here? I haven't done anything. I barely even talked to Grandpa, let alone have enough influence to change his will. But here we are, with me as the family's new favorite villain. Let me paint a picture of the kinds of messages I'm getting. 1. My older sister, who usually can't even remember my birthday, sent me a long rant about family loyalty and how I've betrayed everyone's trust. She ended her message with a passive-aggressive, "Hope you're happy with yourself." 2. Then there's my cousin Dave, who's suddenly interested in reconnecting after years of silence. His message was all sweet and nostalgic until he hit me with a "so" about Grandpa's will. 3. And let's not forget Aunt Linda, who straight up accused me of using dark magic, her words not mine, to influence Grandpa. I didn't know whether to laugh or be offended. Honestly, the audacity and the theatrics of it all have turned into my new form of entertainment. My wife and I have started taking bets on who's going to say what next. Will Uncle Joe claim I brainwashed Grandpa with some high-tech gadget? Will Cousin Sarah start a Facebook group to save Grandpa from my clutches? The possibilities are endless and bizarrely amusing. Here's the thing. This whole fiasco has really put things into perspective. Watching my family lose their minds over money has just reaffirmed why I stepped back from them in the first place. There's something liberating about seeing their true colors on full display. It's like confirmation that I made the right call by keeping my distance. Plus, it's not about the money for me. I've built a life that I'm proud of, far away from the family's toxicity. I have a beautiful wife, great kids, and a peaceful home. No inheritance can top that, no matter how many zeros are attached. Grandpa, for his part, seems oblivious to the chaos he's sparked. Or who knows, maybe he planned this as a final test to see who's who in the family zoo. Last I heard from him, he was just concerned about making his peace, setting his affairs in order, and making sure I knew he supported me. It's weirdly touching, even if it's caused a hurricane of family drama. For now, I'm just sitting back and watching how this all unfolds. I'm keeping records of all the messages, partly for legal cover if things get nastier, and partly because you never know when you'll need a good laugh at the absurdity of it all. As for responding, I'm staying out of it. No messages, no calls, no engagement. Like watching a soap opera where you root for the chaos, but stay safely on your couch. Thanks for letting me vent and for all the advice you guys have offered in the past. It's been a wild ride, and somehow sharing it here makes it a bit easier to handle. I'll keep you posted if anything else crazy happens, but for now, I'm just enjoying the peace that comes with having my priorities straight. Catch you all on the next update. Update 4. Hey everyone. A few of my family members have officially crossed into uncharted territory. They're suing me. The reason? They believe that because my children don't have the family surname, I shouldn't inherit from Grandpa. Their argument hinges on a bizarre interpretation of family legacy and entitlement, which, frankly, is just a thinly veiled attempt to get their hands on Grandpa's money. But that's not all. They're also challenging the validity of Grandpa's will by questioning his mental health. According to them, only someone not in their right mind would leave a significant portion of their estate to someone whose kids don't carry the family name. They're painting a picture of me as some kind of master manipulator who tricked a vulnerable old man into writing them out of the will. Grandpa was absolutely furious when he found out about the lawsuit. Despite his age, he's got a fire in him that I've always admired. He called me up, fuming, and assured me he had everything under control. I've got a good lawyer, and I'm not about to let these greedy opportunists tear my family apart, he declared. It was both reassuring and sad to hear him so worked up over his own family's actions. He's now fully engaged in this battle, actively working with his lawyer to defend his decision and prove his mental competence. He's made it clear to everyone that his will reflects his true wishes and that he made those decisions with a clear and sound mind. This lawsuit has thrown the family into chaos. Some members who were initially on the fence have now chosen sides, with most aligning against me, driven by either greed or spite. The few who remain neutral are staying out of the fray, but the tension at family gatherings, not that I attend these, is reportedly through the roof. The reactions to Grandpa's staunch defense of me and his will have been varied. Some are shocked that he's taking such a firm stand, while others are angry and doubling down on their claims. It's like watching a family implode in real time. On the legal front, things are looking pretty solid for us. Grandpa's lawyer is one of the best in the business, and he's been thorough in documenting Grandpa's mental fitness and the clarity of his intentions when he revised his will. They've gathered statements from his doctor, friends, and other family members attesting to his mental acuity. We've also been preparing for the possibility that this could drag out. The lawyer has been very proactive, organizing our defense and ensuring that every possible angle is covered. It's been a lot of meetings, a lot of paperwork, and a lot of strategy sessions, which are surprisingly draining. This whole ordeal is taking its toll on everyone. For me, it's been a whirlwind of stress, frustration, and disbelief. Watching my family turn against me over money has been disheartening but also eye-opening. My wife has been my rock, helping me navigate these turbulent waters and keeping our home life as normal as possible for our kids. Grandpa, meanwhile, is both angry and heartbroken. It pains him to see his family divided like this, but he's also determined not to let greed win. He spends a lot of time with his lawyer, making sure everything is ready for whatever comes next. Update 5. Hey everyone. So the big news. We won the case, and not just a simple win. It was a landslide. The judge dismissed my family's claims against Grandpa's will, stating clearly that there was no evidence of any manipulation on my part and that Grandpa was completely of sound mind when he made his decisions. But here's the kicker. Because their claims were deemed so baseless and frivolous, the court also ordered them to pay both Grandpa's and my legal fees. Talk about a twist. You'd think that losing the case and having to cough up money for our legal expenses would make my relatives rethink their actions, but it only led to the next act of this saga. Shortly after the verdict, several family members started showing up, literally coming to my door and calling me non-stop, begging for forgiveness. They wanted me to somehow convince Grandpa to reconsider and put them back in his will. It was a total 180 from their previous aggression and entitlement. I've got to say, telling them to buzz off was one of the most satisfying moments of my life. After years of being the black sheep and then being dragged through a legal nightmare, I had no sympathy left for their pleas. I made it very clear that not only would I not advocate for them with Grandpa, but they were also no longer welcome in my life in any capacity. The bridges were burned, and I was the one holding the match this time. Grandpa was just as resolute. When he heard about their latest antics, he scoffed and said he had no intention of rewriting anything in his will. Let them learn the hard way, he told me over the phone, his voice firm, but I could hear the fatigue. The whole ordeal had taken its toll on him too, but he was relieved to see justice served and to know that his real intentions were upheld. This whole experience has been eye-opening. I've learned that family isn't always defined by blood but by actions and respect. My true family, the people who stood by me through all of this, consists of my wife, my kids, Grandpa, and a few loyal friends. Everyone else is just background noise. Now with the lawsuit behind us, I'm focusing on the future. We're planning a little getaway to decompress and celebrate the victory, just me, my wife, and the kids. As for Grandpa, I've promised to visit more often with the kids, so he can enjoy his great-grandchildren without the shadow of family greed looming over us. Thanks to all of you for the support and advice throughout this battle. It's been a wild ride, and sharing it here has been incredibly therapeutic. I'll pop in with updates now and then, but hopefully, my future posts will be about more joyful and less dramatic adventures. Take care, and remember, sometimes standing up for yourself means standing against others, even if they're family. Update 6. Hey everyone, I'm writing this update with a pretty heavy heart. Some of you have been following my family saga for a while now, and unfortunately, things have taken yet another dramatic turn. My grandpa, who was a central figure in my life in recent stories, has passed away, it's been a rough time, but not just because of the grieving process. True to form, the family drama didn't pause to give us a breather. My grandpa recently passed away after a brief illness. It wasn't entirely unexpected given his age, but it's still a hard hit. Among his final arrangements, he left behind a personal letter for me, which was both touching and clarifying. In it, he expressed deep regret for the years we lost when we were estranged and explained some of the reasons behind his decisions. He apologized for not being there when I needed him and expressed how proud he was of the person I've become, despite the family chaos. The letter is something I'll always hold dear. It was written in his meticulous handwriting, each word carefully chosen, and it provided a lot of closure on issues that had bothered me for years. It was Grandpa's way of making peace, and I'm grateful for that. As executor of his will, I had a front row seat to the unfolding drama once his will was publicly read. Grandpa was quite wealthy, and he left a substantial inheritance to me, acknowledging in his will that this was both a gesture of love and a means to make amends. You'd think that after the recent court battle, which affirmed Grandpa's mental competence and right to decide on his estate as he saw fit, my relatives would step back. Well, think again. Almost immediately, my phone started blowing up with messages and calls. Relatives who hadn't bothered to check in on Grandpa or me for years were suddenly keen to express their grief and family solidarity. But it didn't take long for their true motives to surface. Here's a rundown of the kind of messages I'm dealing with. A cousin I haven't seen in over a decade messaged me about how they're struggling with mortgage payments and how a small help from the inheritance could save their family home. An aunt who famously declared I'd never amount to anything suddenly recalled our close childhood bond. She hinted heavily that investing in her failing business would be what Grandpa wanted, as it would keep the money in the family. My younger brother, who sided with others during the lawsuit, sent a long, rambling email about how unfair it was that I was hoarding family resources that could benefit everyone. I've had to be firm, maybe even harsh. My response has been consistent. No. I explained that the inheritance was a legal matter, settled by Grandpa's clear wishes, and not a family slush fund. I've also reminded them that their current financial or personal situations, while unfortunate, are not reasons for me to disregard Grandpa's final wishes. Given the previous lawsuit, I'm not taking any chances. I've consulted with my lawyer to ensure all interactions that could be legally relevant are documented. My wife and I are also planning how to use the inheritance responsibly. We're looking at setting up educational funds for our kids, contributing to charity, and possibly investing in a few long-term financial securities. We want to honor Grandpa's memory by using this inheritance to secure our children's future and help others, not fuel endless family greed. This whole ordeal has been exhausting and enlightening. I've come to see how toxic dynamics can overshadow genuine relationships and how money can twist familial bonds into something unrecognizable. My focus now is on my immediate family, my wife and kids, and on moving forward with the lessons learned from Grandpa's life and the recent conflicts. Thanks for letting me share all this. This community has been a great sounding board and support network through all the ups and downs. I hope my next update will be more positive, maybe sharing how we've put the inheritance to good use, or plans for a family vacation, far away from all the drama. Stay tuned and take care. Family is refusing to come to my wedding. Just because my sister likes my fiancé. Growing up in a small family, you'd think it'd be easy to share the love and attention equally, but that wasn't the case in our household. I'm the older sister, 28 now, and my sister's 24. From a very young age, it was painfully obvious that I wasn't the favorite child. This isn't just me being bitter, it's just how it was. My parents, whether they realized it or not, made decisions that constantly put my sister Angela in the spotlight while I lingered in the shadows. It started with small things. Birthday parties were a big showcase of this disparity. For Angela's 5th birthday, there was a huge bash with all the frills, clowns, a bouncy castle, the works. My birthday, just a few months earlier, had been a quiet affair at home with a homemade cake and a couple of gifts. Not that I didn't appreciate the effort, but the difference was stark. It seemed like every year her birthday was an event while mine was an afterthought. School events further highlighted the imbalance. When Angela was in kindergarten, she got a part in the school play. My parents were over the moon, they took time off work, bought her a fancy costume, and invited relatives to come see her perform. Fast forward a couple of years, I had a solo in a school concert. I was nervous and excited, thinking this was my moment to shine, and maybe, just maybe, get that same enthusiastic support. The day came, and only my mom showed up, ducking in at the last minute and leaving quickly after without much comment. Dad didn't make it, He had to work late, or so he said. Angela had soccer practice, and that couldn't be missed, apparently. Christmas was another time the favoritism was obvious. One year, I remember both of us had been eyeing this video game console that had just come out. We both hinted as much as we could that it was at the top of our lists. Christmas morning came, and there it was under the tree, with Angela's name on it. My gift was a book series, which I did want, but it was clear who got the big-ticket item and who got the consolation prize. Angela was ecstatic, and I tried to be happy for her, but it was tough. As we got older, the pattern continued. Angela always had the newer clothes, the latest gadgets, and more freedom. When I asked for a later curfew at 16, it was a flat no, with a lecture about responsibility and safety. But Angela, when she reached the same age, was allowed to come and go as she pleased with hardly a word said. It wasn't just material things either. It was the attention and emotional investment. Angela struggled in math during middle school, and my parents were all in, hiring tutors and spending nights helping with homework. I was decent at math, actually pretty good at academics all around, but it was just expected, not celebrated. Any achievement I had was met with a smile and a quick pat on the back. Then the conversation would shift back to whatever Angela was doing, even if it was just some minor drama with her friends. School was supposed to be my escape, a place where I could shine on my own merits. But even there, the shadow of my sister's favoritism followed me. Throughout elementary and middle school, it felt like I was just going through the motions, invisible unless something went wrong. Take science fair season in the 5th grade. I spent weeks on my project, a detailed model of the solar system where each planet moved on a motorized track. I was so proud of it, working every evening after dinner, painting the planets, wiring the motors, checking every detail. I couldn't wait to show it off at the school science fair, thinking maybe this time my parents would see I was good at something too. The night of the fair, I stood next to my project, eager to explain the orbits and the gears to anyone who'd stop by. My parents promised they'd be there, said they wouldn't miss it for the world. Halfway through the evening, they hadn't shown up, and I was trying not to let it get to me, focusing on the judges' questions and the interested looks from classmates and their parents. Then, finally, my mom and dad rushed in, apologizing for being late. They'd been at a parent-teacher conference for Angela that ran long because her teacher had so many wonderful things to say. They gave my project a quick glance, threw in a couple of "looks great, honey," then spent the rest of the evening talking to other parents, bragging about Angela's latest achievements in drama club. My project won 2nd place, a ribbon that I hung on my bedroom wall, a small victory overshadowed once again by Angela's ever-expanding trophy shelf. In middle school, things didn't get much better. I was in advanced classes, pulling top grades, but my academic success was just expected, not celebrated. Angela, meanwhile, struggled with her grades, which meant she got all the attention at home. Tutors, nightly homework help, endless praise for every B she brought home. During one memorable parent-teacher night, I overheard my math teacher telling my parents how well I was doing, how I was a shoo-in for the advanced math track in high school. They nodded, smiled, and then immediately asked about extracurriculars that might be good for Angela, who was waiting at home. My achievements were just a footnote in their discussions, always overshadowed by Angela's needs and activities. It wasn't just academics. In 8th grade, I tried out for the school volleyball team. I made the team but barely played in games. I spent most of my time on the bench, watching, waiting for a chance to prove myself. When I told my parents I was on the team, they were happy enough but never came to the games. They were too busy with Angela, who had started taking dance classes around the same time, classes that apparently couldn't be missed. High school offered a fresh start, or so I thought. I was determined to make it different, to stand out in ways that couldn't be ignored. I joined clubs, volunteered, and continued to ace my classes. But at home, it was the same story. Angela had entered high school too, and suddenly her transition, her experiences, her life took center stage. Sophomore year, I was elected vice president of the student council. It was a big deal for me. I'd worked hard campaigning, staying late for meetings, organizing events. I was buzzing with excitement the day I found out I'd won, practically bouncing through the door when I got home. I couldn't wait to share the news. That excitement fizzled out fast when I walked into the kitchen to find my family in the middle of a celebration. Angela had made the cheerleading squad. There were balloons, cake, the whole 9 yards. I stood there, holding my good news in my throat, suddenly feeling foolish for thinking this might be my moment. I mentioned my election offhand during dinner, trying to keep the disappointment out of my voice. There were congratulations, sure, a momentary pause in the Angela-centric conversation. But quickly, the focus shifted back to her, to what cheers she would be doing, to how we needed to rearrange our schedules for her practices and games. It was a pattern that repeated over and over throughout high school. Every achievement I had was overshadowed by something, anything, Angela did. My role in the National Honor Society was less important than her lead in the school play. My perfect attendance awards were less noteworthy than her participation in the spring musical. It all came to a head during our senior year. College application season was stressful for everyone, but I had my sights set on a few top schools, places I'd dreamed of attending since freshman year. I worked diligently on my applications, essays, and SAT prep. When acceptance letters started coming in, I was over the moon. I got into several of my top choices, each acceptance a confirmation that my hard work wasn't for nothing. The day I got my acceptance to a prestigious out-of-state university, I was ecstatic. This was it, my ticket out, my chance to really start my own life away from the shadow of my sister. I gathered up the acceptance letters, planning to show them to my parents that evening. But when I got home, the focus was all on Angela. She'd been accepted to a local college, a good school, but nowhere near as competitive. My parents were thrilled, talking about how they could visit her easily, how she'd be close to home. When I showed them my letters, they were happy for me. But the conversation quickly turned back to logistics for Angela, to keeping her close, to making sure she wouldn't have to go too far from the safety net of home. My moment, like so many others, was swept aside. My decision to go to that out-of-state university was met with concerns about distance and safety, not with pride or excitement. It was clear that no matter what I achieved, Angela's comfort and happiness would always come first. That realization hurt, but it also lit a fire in me. I was determined to go to that university, to start fresh, to build a life where I was more than just Angela's older sister, where my achievements and my happiness could stand on their own. Moving out was my declaration of independence, a loud statement that I was done being the backdrop to someone else's vibrant painting. I was 20, balancing a full course load at university while working part-time to scrape together enough for rent and tuition. It wasn't easy, but every challenge I faced in my cramped one-bedroom apartment was a testament to my resilience, a badge of honor I wore with a mix of pride and relief. The decision to move out wasn't made on a whim. It was the culmination of years of feeling sidelined, of watching my sister Angela receive all the familial support and attention while I was expected to be self-sufficient. This dynamic didn't improve with age. If anything, it became more pronounced as we grew older. My achievements, no matter how significant, were always overshadowed by the smallest of Angela's accomplishments. The day I left, I packed my belongings into a couple of suitcases and boxes, the sum total of my life fitting neatly into the back of an old car I had bought with my savings. There were no tearful goodbyes or heartfelt wishes for luck, just a brief, somewhat awkward exchange with my parents, who seemed more confused by my decision than anything else. Angela didn't even realize I was moving out until she saw the empty space where my things used to be. Settling into my new apartment was a reality check. The place was small, the walls were thin, and the furnishings were a mishmash of whatever I could afford from thrift stores and clearance sales. But it was mine. For the first time, I had a space where I could make the rules, where I could come home and know that everything was exactly where I had left it, where the silence was for my contemplation, and not a side effect of being ignored. Managing my finances was one of the biggest challenges. I quickly learned to budget like a pro, juggling bills, rent, and tuition payments with the meager earnings from my part-time job. Groceries were bought on sale, luxuries were few and far between, and every penny spent was carefully considered. Nights out with friends were replaced by nights in with textbooks and instant noodles. It was a stark contrast to my life at home, where Angela's wants often translated into expenses that my parents didn't think twice about. Balancing work and study was another hurdle. My days were a blur of classes, library sessions, and long shifts at a local cafe. I would come home exhausted, my body aching for sleep, but my mind racing with everything I needed to do to stay ahead. Despite the exhaustion, there was a profound satisfaction in knowing that every grade I earned, every rent payment I made, was a result of my own efforts. There was no overshadowing here. My successes and failures were entirely my own. Socially, it was isolating at times. I watched my classmates head out for evenings of fun while I headed to work or back to my apartment to study. I envied their freedom, their careless laughter that seemed so far removed from my own responsibilities. But this period taught me a lot about myself. I learned that I could rely on my own strength, that I could face challenges head-on and come out the other side stronger for it. There were moments of doubt, of course, nights when I lay in my bed listening to the sounds of the city and wondering if I had made a mistake. In those moments, the weight of what I had taken on felt overwhelming. But then I would remember the reasons why I left. I thought about the constant comparisons, the way my needs had always come second to Angela's, the way my parents had managed to make even my accomplishments feel like they were lacking somehow. These reflections steeled my resolve. They reminded me that moving out was not just about finding a place to live. It was about finding a place to grow, to understand who I was outside of the family dynamics that had shaped so much of my life. It was about breaking the pattern of being an afterthought in my own story. As I moved through my university years, the distance from my family allowed me to build a life that felt genuinely mine. I made friends, connections that were based on mutual respect and shared experiences rather than familial obligation. I became involved in university activities, taking on roles that challenged and excited me. Each success was a building block in my newfound self-esteem, each failure a lesson rather than a mark against my worth. By the time I graduated, I had a solid group of friends, a degree, and a job lined up. The pride I felt walking across that stage to receive my diploma was untainted by any need for validation from my family. I had proven to myself that I could make it on my own terms, and that was enough. Reflecting on those years now, I realize how crucial they were in shaping the person I have become. They were a time of growth, of trial and error, of setting the foundations for the life I wanted to lead. They taught me about the value of independence, not just financially, but emotionally and mentally. Moving out might have started as a way to escape the favoritism that so defined my relationship with my family, but it became so much more. It was the beginning of truly understanding my worth, of seeing that I was capable of so much more than being the overlooked older sister. It was hard, yes, and lonely at times, but it was also one of the most empowering decisions I ever made. After graduating from university, I found myself in a place of solid independence. I was financially stable, emotionally more resilient, and professionally just starting to make my mark. It was around this time that Ricky and I took our relationship from good friends to something more. We had known each other since our second year of university, but it was only after we both had settled into our careers that we began to see each other in a new light. Ricky was different from anyone I'd ever dated. He was incredibly supportive, genuinely interested in my thoughts and feelings, and never made me feel overshadowed or less important. Our relationship grew naturally, filled with deep conversations, shared interests, and a mutual respect that I'd always longed for but never quite experienced. I think what made our relationship so special was the fact that Ricky knew all about my family dynamics. He'd seen firsthand how my achievements were often brushed aside, how my parents' blatant favoritism towards Angela affected me. He understood my need for space from them, my drive to prove myself on my own terms. And rather than judge or pity me, he stood by me, offering support and understanding. About 5 years into our relationship, when I was fully immersed in my career and we were both secure in our life paths, Ricky proposed. It wasn't a grand gesture, no public displays or elaborate setups. It was perfectly us, simple, sincere, and private. We had gone hiking, something we both loved, on a crisp fall day when the leaves were just turning. We reached a lookout point, with stunning views of the valley below, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. We were sitting there, catching our breath and taking in the beauty of the moment, when he turned to me, his expression serious, but his eyes warm. He took my hand, and with a gentle but earnest tone, he started talking about our journey together, how much he valued our relationship, and how he couldn't imagine his life without me. Then he pulled out a small, simple ring and asked if I would marry him. I didn't hesitate. I said yes, of course. It was one of the happiest moments of my life, filled with pure joy and a sense of rightness that I had never felt before. We sat there for a long time, talking about our future, making plans, and just enjoying the realization that we were going to spend our lives together. Telling my family, however, was a different story. Given the strained relations, I wasn't sure how to approach them about my engagement. Ricky, ever the optimist, encouraged me to give them a chance, to share this happy news and maybe, just maybe, mend some fences along the way. After all, they didn't even know I was dating, and I don't think they cared. Ricky finally persuaded me to tell them, so I went home one weekend with him that day. He was looking so good. I had to tease him about trying to impress my parents, and he didn't deny it. My sister wasn't home when we arrived, but she came in a few minutes later. Can you imagine that? She kept flirting with him even after she found out that I brought him home as my fiancé, who I was obviously going to marry. I was irritated at my sister's behavior and the fact that my mom said nothing to her. Ricky helped me keep my cool, though, because he held me tightly to his side the whole time. My parents seemed happy for me. Well, it's not like they had a choice. I wasn't there to take permission, but to inform them of my decision. After some weeks, Ricky took me to one of our favorite places. I noticed that he was being extra gentle with me. He did that when he had something serious to tell me, or something he wasn't comfortable with. So I braced myself up for it. I was so curious that before we got to the restaurant, I asked him what the problem was and what he wanted to tell me. He asked me to calm down and that he wasn't running away. He told me that my sister had been flirting with him since they met. She found him on social media and wouldn't let him be. So now it's uncomfortable for him. She told him to leave me because she was better for him than I was. I was furious. How far could she really go? I didn't want to speak to her on the phone, so I told Ricky that I was going to my parents' house the next day to set things straight. Update 1. Thanks so much for all your support and good luck messages. They really mean a lot to me, especially given everything that's been going down. So here's the lowdown. I decided to confront my family about a pretty serious issue that's been bugging me for a while. I figured Saturday would be a good day to catch everyone at home. I had called ahead to let them know I was coming over because I wanted to talk about something important. My mom also mentioned she wanted to talk, which had me hoping maybe we could clear the air or sort things out. I arrived at my parents' house around noon, thinking this was going to be a constructive discussion. But oh boy, was I wrong. I started off by bringing up the issue that's been eating at me. My sister has been openly flirting with my fiancé, Ricky, and it's not something I can just brush off. I mean, there are plenty of fish in the sea, and she needed to back off since Ricky's clearly taken. Thinking about the whole situation was making me nauseous, but I laid it all out, expecting some kind of understanding, or at least a plan to address it. That's when my mom hit me with a bombshell. She told me the real reason she wanted to talk was that my sister had apparently fallen head over heels for Ricky since she first met him. And then, without skipping a beat, she actually asked me to break things off with Ricky and let my sister have him because she was in love. I was completely floored. How could they even suggest something like that? Ricky isn't some object to be passed around based on who likes him more. I told them straight up that they were being incredibly selfish and that I was disgusted by even the thought of being associated with such a mindset. While my mom did all the talking, my sister just sat there, crying those big, fake crocodile tears, and my dad was just a silent figurehead, as usual, going along with whatever my mom said. My mom tried to guilt-trip me by saying that I was being selfish for putting my own happiness before my sister's desires, that I never learned to think about others. A ludicrous statement if there ever was one. I shot back, telling them there was no way I was going to ditch Ricky. We've been together for 5 years, we're engaged, and my sister's fleeting crush wasn't enough to make me even consider such a ridiculous idea. That's when things got even uglier. My mom declared that if I couldn't do this for my sister, then they wouldn't come to my wedding. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was this really the family I grew up with? By then, it was clear my dad wasn't going to stand up for what was right. He's never been one to challenge my mom or take a stand. After dropping that bomb, I just left. I couldn't take another minute. I was so shaken up that I broke down crying in my car as I drove away. It felt like my whole world had shifted. Who were these people? How could they expect me to sacrifice my happiness like that? Ricky was equally shocked when I told him. He knew my family was difficult, but he didn't realize the extent until now. I apologized that my family drama was now spilling over into our life together. Even saying it out loud, how ridiculous this all was, felt surreal. So now I'm at a crossroads. My family's ultimatum hangs over me like a dark cloud. It hurts knowing that they might not be at my wedding. But at the same time, do I really want such toxicity at one of the happiest days of my life? Ricky and I have some thinking to do, but one thing's for sure. We need to surround ourselves with people who love and support us, not those who see us as pawns in their selfish games. I'm trying to stay positive and focus on the good things I have going for me. But it's tough. The support from this community has been incredible, and I can't thank you enough. It's comforting to know I'm not alone in this. I'll keep you all updated as things develop. But for now, my focus is on maintaining my peace and planning a future with Ricky, hopefully free from any more unnecessary drama. Thanks again for being here for me. Update 2. Hey everyone, I wanted to drop another update because a lot has been going on with the wedding planning and, unfortunately, the family drama hasn't really cooled down. Thanks for all your support and advice. It's been super helpful and comforting knowing I'm not going through this alone. So, where to start? Well, the wedding preparations have been one of the few highlights lately. Everything is picking up pace, and seeing it all come together is really exciting. We've nailed down the venue, caterer, and the band, and I've been diving into all the small details that make the day special. It's been a nice distraction from the other less pleasant stuff. But, as you guessed, not all is smooth sailing. Despite Ricky blocking her, my sister still seems to think she has a chance with him. It's beyond frustrating, and frankly, quite delusional. Ricky has made it clear he's not interested, and honestly, every attempt she makes just drives a bigger wedge between us. I never imagined having to deal with something like this from my own sister. It's surreal. My friends have been amazing through all this. They've really stepped up, helping not just with the wedding but also being there for me emotionally. My best friend even attempted to talk some sense into my mom and sister, calling them to explain how their actions were affecting me. Unfortunately, that conversation didn't go well. They're both as stubborn as ever, with my mom even admitting she only threatened to skip the wedding to try and break Ricky and me up. She thought if she pushed hard enough, I'd end my engagement with Ricky to keep the peace. I couldn't believe what I was hearing when my friend relayed the conversation. It was like living in some bizarro world where up is down and right is wrong. When I heard my mom actually thought she could manipulate me like that, I just laughed. It's ridiculous how she believes she holds so much power over my decisions. While I would love for my family to be at my wedding, I've realized that their presence isn't worth the cost of my happiness. If they want to miss out on one of the biggest days of my life over something so petty, then maybe it's better they don't come. I still went ahead and sent them invitations, though. I figured it was the mature thing to do, to give them one last chance to be part of my life in a meaningful and positive way. But honestly, I've set my expectations pretty low. Their response, or lack thereof, will tell me everything I need to know about where we stand. If they decide to come, acknowledge their mistakes, and genuinely want to support me, then maybe there's a sliver of hope for mending our relationship. On the other hand, if they choose to continue with their current behavior, I'm fully prepared to cut them out of my life for good. I can't keep dealing with their negativity and manipulation. It's exhausting, and it's not how I want to live. I've realized that just because someone is family doesn't mean you owe them endless chances, especially when they've repeatedly shown they don't respect you or your choices. As the wedding day approaches, I'm trying to focus on the positive aspects and the people who genuinely support and love me and Ricky. We're both incredibly excited about starting our new life together, and we won't let anyone's selfishness or drama overshadow our joy. I'm looking forward to celebrating our love with friends and family who care about us and want the best for us. Thanks again for sticking with me through this wild ride. Your messages of support and shared experiences have been a beacon of light in what has been a pretty dark time. I'll definitely keep you all updated as more developments unfold. But for now, I'm just going to keep planning the happiest day of our lives and hoping for a drama-free celebration filled with love and laughter. Here's to better days ahead. Update 3. Hey everyone, checking in from my honeymoon spot, and I'm still buzzing with excitement and happiness. I can't believe it. I'm actually married to the absolute love of my life, Ricky. Just typing that out feels surreal, like I'm living in a dream. And honestly, I couldn't be happier. The wedding itself was everything I ever dreamed of, and then some. It was a beautiful day, filled with love, laughter, and lots of dancing. Being surrounded by friends and Ricky's family, who have shown nothing but love and acceptance, really made the day magical. They've become my family now, and their warmth and kindness have meant the world to us both. However, not everything was perfect, and there was a bittersweet tinge to the day. Despite hoping otherwise, my own family didn't show up. It was painful, really painful. Throughout the ceremony, I found myself glancing over at the seats where I hoped to see them, holding on to a shred of hope that they'd walk through the door at the last minute. But they never came. Ricky noticed what I was doing and, at one moment, just pulled me close and whispered for me to focus on us, on the beautiful beginning we were about to embark on. He reassured me that right then, it was just about the two of us, and that was all that mattered. His words helped more than he might realize. They reminded me that while the absence of my family hurt, it didn't define our day or our lives together. We were there to celebrate our love and commitment to each other, and nothing could take away from that. The support from Ricky's family was overwhelming, in the best way possible. They filled so much of that empty space with their presence and love, making sure every moment was a celebration. After the wedding, saying that I was emotionally drained would be an understatement. It's hard to grapple with the fact that my own family chose not to be a part of one of the most important days of my life. At times, I wonder if they'll ever come around, or if the rift between us will just keep growing. Right now, my heart feels a bit numb towards them, like I don't even recognize them as my parents or my sister anymore. I don't know if that will change in the future, but right now, I'm choosing happiness. I'm choosing to focus on the new family I've gained through Ricky and on our future together. The joy of the day, despite the shadows, affirmed that Ricky and I can face anything as long as we have each other. Our wedding day, despite the absence of my biological family, was genuinely the best day of our lives because it represented us moving forward together, stronger and more in love than ever. So here I am, a newly married woman, incredibly excited about what lies ahead. I'm looking forward to building our life together, filled with love, respect, and mutual support. The path may not always be smooth. Life's like that, after all. But I know we'll navigate it together. Thanks again for all your love and support through this journey. Sharing this with you all has been incredibly therapeutic and has helped me more than words can say. I'll definitely keep you updated as we embark on this new chapter of our lives. For now, I'm going to soak up every moment of this honeymoon and the new beginnings it represents. Here's to love, laughter, and a future filled with happiness.